All right, good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining us. We can start. I'm going to start by introducing Varsha to the class, and then Harman can take over and ask questions. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Varsha Aithala to the class. I've known her for some time already, and like the last speaker we had, Varsha again comes with this kind of very interesting blend of both academics and practice and international education as well. So it'll be great for our students to hear from her. It's great to have her here. I have worked with her at Azim Premji University when I was teaching there, and we in fact together developed the LLM program there right from scratch. So when the LLM program began at Azim Premji University, Varsha was involved in that program at all stages, right from admissions to recruitment to teaching, all aspects of the LLM program. So we had a great time actually doing that, building a program from scratch. So it was a great experience for me. I've always regarded Varsha as a person with a lot of very interesting thoughts on education and the blend of education and practice, and the role of legal education in the larger society. Right. So I think that's where I think Varsha has done a lot of thinking and a lot of work in that area. So it'll be actually interesting for us to hear from Varsha about that as well. Like a lot of other people who have come on to this series, Varsha has been to a national law institution and then has studied abroad for some time, has practiced in a major law firm, and has now for the last few years been teaching law and researching in various aspects of law and society. So it's really a very interesting blend of a lot of different kinds of experiences, and I cannot think of a more appropriate person for young law students to listen to and talk to and learn from eventually. So thank you very much, Varsha. I welcome you to this talk, and I'll let Harman take over and ask you questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Nigam. That's very kind. That's a very nice introduction. Thank you. Look forward.
Because I think there is a problem.
Right.
There is an issue.
Go on with the conversation, and she's joining.
All right. So can I continue with the conversation then?
Yes, absolutely. Please.
All right. Great. So Varsha, you have to you have to tell me a little bit, just to begin with, a little bit about your decision to join a law school. This is a very interesting series we are having, where we actually try to think about the law and the role law plays in the lives of people through the personal stories of people. Mm-hmm. And our students would love to hear that, because they're also at this stage where they're just starting the law school or just entering law school. And so it'll be interesting for them to hear from somebody like you. So what made you go and apply to law school?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is a very strange response to that question, because I have never been intending to be a lawyer at all. I was a very studious science student, and I wanted to be a doctor. And at that time I realized I didn't know that there were other ways of being getting a doctorate. I just assumed that you had to do medical school and become a doctor. But so I was just never thinking as much about. I can see Harman here. Hello. Hi, good morning.
Hi, Harman. Sorry, we just started by the conversation already, and then of course you can take over. My first question to Varsha was, what made her go to law school? And so she was just responding to that.
Yes, so ma'am, please continue.
Yeah, thanks. So it was purely kind of a not planned encounter with the law. There were some people in the house in my family knowledge about law schools in the country, and so I wrote a few exams and I joined law. So the reason I'm saying this is because I just want students, I just want everybody to realize that your previous education, which could be anything, should never stop you from approaching law, because I think law is very, it's so diverse, it's so all-encompassing that even a science student, a very pure science student, though through a lot of struggles for the first few years, was able to make the switch in terms, not even a switch, but just that there's a transition from studying, physics formulae and chemistry and biology, which was my favorite, to studying, I don't know, political science, economics, etc. So, I mean, that's my background.
You never know when it comes to useful, no, Varsha. I think in some ways, some of the research that Azim Premji University is doing involves statistics and numbers, which a person like you with your background will be more comfortable and more familiar with in some ways. So you never know when it's going to come in useful.
True. It's also the discipline of trying to approach a big problem, break it down into smaller, break it down into smaller chunks and, learn it unit by unit, which I think learning in science will give you. And that really kind of helped me, even though it took me a long time to realize that, that really helped me in the first 2 years of, moving from thinking about very specific questions to trying to understand various aspects of law. Just because law, you don't get one answer when someone asks you a question in law. You get multiple variations, unlike in science. So I think that helped, to just break down a complicated question into smaller chunks, and yeah. So I just think everybody you don't have to pre-plan and shouldn't let that stop you from approaching law as a course, definitely, as a program.
Great. I will ask Harman to take over and ask the rest of the questions. Over to you, Harman.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, personally speaking, I can really relate to your situation because even I was a medical student before I joined.
Oh, wow.
And so I can actually relate on how we actually have to think about we have to think out of the box to answer any law question and not just stick to one answer.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, also moving forward, so like when you were in law school, so like what were your years like? Like, did you enjoy your time? Are there any specific memories that you have which you'd like to share?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as I told you, I had never really expected, I didn't know what to expect from a law school in the first few years. So the first 2 years were a lot of settling in. Also, this was, I studied at Nalsar, Hyderabad. In one of the first, I was among the, I think I was the 5th batch of the 5-year law school. So I kind of grew with the university. We've seen the university evolve. We planted the trees, the first trees in the university. So, in a way, we grew with the university. So it was really amazing. And I don't know how many of us here have been to Nalsar, but it's just back of beyond. It's really far away. And so my most cherished memories are not purely academic, but non-academic. Just the fact that we could walk in the rain and we could go fish in the lake and, hike those little hillocks around. So those were the really cherishable moments just growing with the university. And I know a lot of people here are also growing with your university. So I think you can very well relate to what I am saying, right? Eating samosas, eating bhajis by the roadside, going to dhabas, etc. I don't know how much of that is done there, but we were very free to do all that because the university was so young. But in terms of the curriculum itself, I think, as I told you, I still am, I think, very, very studious. So it was very difficult for me to get to grips with so much syllabus, right? Just to read so much suddenly, because we and school or just first year of college, we don't really understand how much there is to read and how to read as well, actually, more importantly, or rather what to read. It took me at least 3 years to figure that out. So I want to tell everybody, including the students here, that you shouldn't lose heart if you're not able to keep up to speed with the portions or up to speed with class. It does take a lot of planning. It takes a lot of very everyday kind of, everyday preparation. I know it sounds a bit dull, but so in terms of fun, I can tell you that my first mooting experience was a lot of fun. we started mooting in the first year itself, and a lot of it was student driven. So we had our seniors who were tutoring us on, the basics of mooting, because we didn't know what it was. We didn't know how to do research. I didn't know how to write. So the most fun experience should probably have been, like, studies wise, studies wise, the mooting experience, I think. And I really encourage everybody to at least involve themselves in some way with mooting. Either write a memorial or present. Everyone doesn't have to be a good speaker. You can be a good researcher. You can be a good support team. So yeah, and I see there is a lot of scope in your program for experiential learning, right? I think that is one of the highlights of the law program at your university. So
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And ma'am, thank you. Like, thankful to our dean also. He's very supportive of encouraging us to participate in Moot. So we're really looking forward. And ma'am,
sure.
also, after you got out of law school, so how were your initial years after the law school? Like,
So okay, so that's what the one thing again I would encourage students, and this is only purely from my experience, and everybody's happy. I mean, I'm happy for everyone to take whatever they can out of my experience. So I did internships throughout the 5 years, and like every break, I went and did internships because I found them really interesting. And I did a diverse set of internships. So while the first year was with a non-governmental organization, the second year was with court, the third year was with a law firm, the fourth year was with a research organization. So I tried to keep it very diverse. And so the moment I finished college, I think the first I was really lucky to get a pre-placement offer from a law firm that I had worked with. So it was directly into a law firm, into a corporate law firm, which is among the really competitive law firm in the first year, which was very difficult to learn and to kind of keep up to speed with it. So that was my first experience in Bombay, where I lived by myself and learned to work, try to do, I don't know, private equity documentation, venture capital transactions, learning. It was a steep learning curve the first year. It was very tough. Every night I would come back home exhausted, but it was a lot of learning, like basic concepts of, what it means to be a company. You do learn about it in college, but just to see it in practice and draft something, what is share capital, right? What is company limited by? I don't know if people, I don't know what years, I think it's first and second year that I'm speaking to. So I don't know if you already have, have you been taught company law yet?
no, not yet.
No, okay. But you know what a company
Yeah,
is, right? Yeah. So what it is to have shares, etc. So first year was very difficult, but very great learning experience. But after that, I did a training contract in an English law firm, which was very interesting. It was I did 2 years, which is 6 months training in different departments. So I did litigation, I did financial regulation, I did commercial law, and one more 6 month in commercial law. So the training contract was very interesting for me. Also, just living up by myself in the UK and trying to fend for myself was a great learning experience. So first few years, while at that time I felt that was very stressful, I think there was great learning. And the first 2 years are always most like you learn a lot in terms of approaching work, professionalism, etiquette, all that. So yeah, it was great first 2 years, but very difficult.
Okay, ma'am, you're kind of scaring us also now. But
Sorry, I'm not scaring you. I'm just telling you that the law school prepares you for it. If you are able to do internships, if you're able to kind of read beyond the textbooks, then I think the law school will prepare you for it. That's what I meant. I'm not at all trying to.
thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, so like if you had to ask, what are you working on right now, like in terms of teachings and research? So like, would you like to show, enlighten us with what you're actually working on right now?
Yeah, sure. So my experience has been very diverse. I think Megan made a short mention to it. So I moved to teaching and research very late, after 10 years of working. So right now my interests are, I'm researching on some aspects of private law. I'm looking at how impact investment can make some kind of difference in the legal system. And I'm also looking at, mostly it is looking at basics of contract law, basics of company law, and see how it kind of intersects with development. So law and development in that way. Because our teaching is very aligned to that. So we teach a course in law and development in the university, where I teach a course on legal system reform to see how courts in different parts of the country's legal system can be reformed, if at all. So yeah, those are my teaching and research kind of interests right now. It's pretty varied.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, so like you have so much of work, you're researching, you're on so many projects. So ma'am, how do you balance your hobbies and other interests with the work? So like, is there anything you'd like to
So
share about this?
yeah, sure. So the one thing that all of us should be doing is to get a balance in terms of the number of hours you devote to work and the number of hours you devote to not work, right? And reading is a very important component of what you do through the day, particularly as a student. And I think you should definitely, as I said, if you're able to schedule your day, like break the day down into smaller units where you say, every 1.5 hours, I'm going to do this particular thing. Obviously, you have classes to attend and assignments to complete and projects to do and discussions to be part of. But other than those are anyway fixed, right? You can't do much with that. But in terms of what the remaining time, I think you don't have to make it very dull. You don't have to do something that you don't want to do every day. But I think scheduling, just putting things in slots and saying I will finish this in 1.5 hours, and whatever I can do in 1.5 hours, that's all I'll do. I think that really helps me personally. And I'm not just involved in teaching and research. I'm also working with a couple of social enterprises to see whether we can use design thinking to do access to justice problems. So, and that takes some time just to get work done. But as long as it's enjoyable, I think you can manage your time. I do end up working sometimes on Saturdays, but I definitely keep my Sundays free for, I don't know, running, which I really like, taking care of my little pup, which is just home. But yeah, so I try to manage it that way. But I think it's about scheduling your time, just saying, between this hours and this hours, I will not do anything but read and write or finish my assignments. Otherwise, I sleep 8 to 10 hours a night, so I think it's fine. I think I'm able to balance so far. Touch wood.
Wow. So that gives us a really good motivation to actually schedule our time and manage it well. So, ma'am, now I think I'll open it for the students. If they have any questions, guys, please write it on the chat box.
Or I can just speak to them as well, whatever works.
Yes, please switch on your cameras and ask any questions if you have. Ma'am, so we have a question from Tasneem.
Yeah.
So she's asking if there are any tips for writing research papers.
Right. Okay, so I'll tell you my experience, because I think each person's writing style varies. And also I think each person's research interests, it depends on what research interests you have. But I think the most important part of writing a research paper, sorry, that's my little pup trying to get my attention. No, so sorry, to write a research paper, I think what I usually do is this is my trick, okay? You can use your own trick, but it's called the just write whatever comes to your mind. Like basically take I don't know, if you type, if you write, I don't know what you want, but take a blank sheet, and the first cut or the first draft should be whatever comes to your mind about the topic, right? It has to have your structure. It has to have what the main research question that you want to highlight, and also what you think are the likely sources of information. So that's the first draft, right? And it has to be, you don't have to read, you don't have to think a lot. You just have to put your thoughts down on paper, because your research paper is going to be a reflection of your writing, correct? That's your first cut. But immediately after that, I think the most important aspect is to get your questions, the main questions that you're going to research, the main questions that you want to put in as part of your paper. Get the questions, and the questions will then help you frame your literature search, your review of whatever literature is available. So I do that. I know that different people have worked differently, but for me, the first thing is to put my ideas down. The second thing is to find out the main questions that I want to attempt in that particular paper. And the third thing is to kind of find literature, either to tell me that my questions are wrong, my questions are inaccurate, or to actually support the questions that I have. And you will notice that as you do this, a lot of your hypotheses, initial hypotheses, might change completely, or a lot of the literature might lead you to some revision of your either of your literature search or of your research questions, etc. So that's the trick. That's what I use, and I know that Nigam's just turned his camera on. I think he has a very different approach to working on papers. So I don't know, Nigam.
No, actually, I quite like the way you put it, Varsha. And I was just going to say that I have to go to another meeting, so I thought I'll get a question in before other people get their questions in.
Sure.
Harman, is that okay? I'm just going to ask Varsha one question, and then I'll have to leave.
Sure. Please
And
go
I
ahead.
encourage other participants to ask as many questions as possible. We have about 15 minutes left. And so you should really take advantage. These are kind of opportunities that don't come along that often. So Varsha, let me ask you. You were talking about writing, and writing is of course a very important part of an academic's life, but also a law student's life. So one thing that I keep telling my students here, the young people who are on this call, is that you'll have to keep practicing the art of writing. There's a science to it, which is some of the things you mentioned. And hypothesis, and then going back and revising it. But there's also an art to it, which is that you got to find your personal style. You got to find your ways of writing. Some people write immediately for a couple of hours and then they stop it. Some people do it in more fits and phases. So I think it's really important. I mean, I wanted your opinion on this. I think it's really important that people practice the art of writing.
Yeah.
And the more practice, the better. Is that something that you might want to think about, or you might want to tell us about?
Sure, I can. I think that's one thing I am learning a lot from colleagues, from peers, including from Nigam, and also from a lot of scholars who are writing about writing. So I've been recommended. I don't know if I can suggest a book here. I've been recommended.
No, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, great. Because I'm also in the process of finding my own style of writing, and it is a really long and time-consuming process, but it's accretive. Every little you do is going to add up. I think that's what Nigam is also suggesting. So there's a book by Anne Lamott called Bird by Bird, which is a very fun, very humorous kind of take on how to write every day, right? And how to write anything every day. And I've just started reading it. I've read a lot about the book. So I definitely recommend that to anybody who wants to start thinking about writing. But the one thing that I have been trying to do, and successfully and unsuccessfully, depending on the day, is to just fix at least a half an hour or 20 minutes or 40 minutes every day to just write something. Write about something you read the last night, the last day. Write about something you feel strongly about. It could be a blog post. It could be, I don't know, it could be just a note. It could be a reflection paper, a response sheet, whatever it is. You don't have to term it something. just write every day. Ideally, it helps to write around the same time every day because it becomes a habit. But and that also encourages you to read beforehand, right? Because you can't just start writing. Everyone can't just start writing something. Yes, thanks, Nigam. That's the one. Um, uh, and so that's scheduling so many minutes. Start with a few minutes, 20 minutes a day. The other thing which I found really kind of motivating for me, because writing is also a personal exercise, right? Nobody's going to tell you to write. You have to kind of remember to write and be motivated enough and push that Netflix series or push that Amazon series on the side for half an hour to be able to write. So the other thing I've been doing is I use my Instagram handle to motivate me to write. And I tell you what I do. I basically tell myself, it's a hashtag, which I call 500 words a day. Right? It's just 500 words a day that I have to write. And because I've put it out on social media saying that I am going to write 500 words, so, there's accountability in a way. Right? My friends are going to ask me if I've written my 500 words, or somebody else is, or I can show off. I can put it on Instagram and say, look, I've written 500 words today. And the days I haven't written, I think I get really upset because, I haven't done my 500 words a day. So,
500 is actually, that's quite a number, I mean,
yeah, it is. It is.
I mean, it looks, because I've also tried it, and it looks like a small number, but actually it's quite
it's difficult.
a tough number to reach.
It is. And it's 500 your words. So it's not
yes.
500 words of paraphrasing somebody's work, right? So it's a difficult challenge. I can tell you I'm not always successful, but that's one thing. So discipline, I think, as dull as it sounds, is the only way to write.
Yes.
And I'm still learning, but hopefully we'll all write more and write better.
I think that's really a great advice, Varsha, because and that's what I'm telling all my students to do. Because, it wasn't, I didn't do that when I was in law school. I did it to complete my projects, but I didn't do it in the way you and I are talking about. And I think it'll be really nice for our students to start that practice.
Correct. And the pressure of the project completion really wears off because you're writing at least 100 words a day, maybe not 500 words a day. So your projects are scheduled better and you don't have to scram, the last days of your submissions to do your projects as people might end up doing otherwise.
Yes, that's all law students do.
I didn't want to say that.
Okay, thanks, Varsha. I've got to another meeting, but so thanks so much for coming in. And Harman, you got to catch Varsha and ask her a few more interesting questions because this, I think some of the stuff she said is amazing. I think this is exactly what I want my students to hear. So please continue. And I think some people are already asking you questions.
Yeah, I have another question.
See you guys. See you. Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
So I think Tasneem has another question. Yeah. Yes, I really like fiction. I really like reading fiction, but my mother, sorry, I'll just read out the question. I don't know. Tasneem is asking if I read fiction and if I feel good fictional literature may also help. 100%. 100%. It helps you develop your style. And I know everybody talks about your own style, but it is truly your own style of writing. And that is what is engaging to the reader. Because if you are able to read what you write and like it, or at least feel good about it, then obviously someone else who reads it is going to feel good about reading your work, right? Which is why some authors, like fiction, for instance, they're more popular because they write in a style which is very engaging, very simple, less complicated, and kind of, doesn't burden your brain. So in fact, I mostly read fiction. So I really think you should read. The one thing I should tell you that when work got out of hand or when a lot of pressure came in, I stopped reading for a few years. And I really regret that. And the only way I got back to reading fictional work is, again, every day I force myself to read for 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes before I go to sleep. And it actually puts me to sleep faster. Oh yeah, that's just very strange. Sorry, the follow-up question is when courts quote fiction in judgments. Now, there are two things, right? There is a personal opinion about what should be part of decisions, of the court's decisions, and there is a professional opinion. So I'll tell you my personal opinion. In terms of using fiction, in a way, I'm not completely opposed to it, personally speaking, as a litigant, as a client, as a person who reads decisions for getting something out of there, for getting relief. Because I feel like it makes the decision more approachable to, everybody, ordinary citizens. So maybe there is some merit to that. But I know that lots of professionals will get really upset hearing what I say, because as a lawyer, as a trained legal professional, I think people feel that it is putting down the office of the court, or the sanctity associated with a decision. So as a professional, I'm a bit wary of saying that it's okay to quote fiction, because a lot of fiction is not, I don't know, it's not precedential value, so to say. But personally, I think it's one way that, the judges are trying to endear themselves, or the decision makers are trying to endear themselves to every reader, not just lawyers or legal professionals. So sorry, I know it's not a clear answer, but it's a confused answer.
Ma'am, even I have a question here.
Sure,
So,
I think Karthik's also raised his hands.
I'm sorry. Yes,
So whenever,
Karthik, Karthik, would you like to come and ask your question? Karthik?
he can hear you. He had raised his hand, but maybe he'll come back.
Yeah. I think I'll proceed with the question, and if there's
Sure,
anything,
and Karthik can
just
ask his question.
So, ma'am, we have another question before I ask you. So, ma'am, how do you look philosophical aspect in law? Like, how do you look for philosophical aspect? Ma'am, that's an interesting question.
Yeah, but it's also a difficult one, because I mean, I don't know, what have you learned have you done legal philosophy at all? Because I know that
Not yet.
None of you here, none of the people in the group. So, I mean, there is a school which very strongly believes in the role of philosophy in law, or rather believes that law itself, you can't separate law and philosophy, right? So that school strongly believes in that, and I don't follow that school. Okay, Karthik says he's facing network issues. That's fine. Whenever we're done with this question, whenever we're done with Deepak's question, we can go to Karthik's, and then maybe Anam yours. Yeah, so how do I look for it? So basically, if you believe in the idea that all law has some philosophical aspects to it, then you're not really looking for some philosophy. But if you're looking at legal philosophy separately, if you're looking for understanding the foundations of some of the legal concepts, then I think you will have to broaden your reading to not just legal text. By that I mean not just statutes, not just decisions, not just journals which explain the legal questions, but you will probably have to do a little bit of reading beyond pure theory into legal philosophy. Does that answer your question, Deepak, in a way? I mean, depends on which school you are at, which school you follow, or which doctrine you follow. But it forms the basis of most of the laws. So, and particularly with Nigam, who is a philosopher more than a lawyer, I think you'll really see how integrated legal philosophy is with black letter law. You have that really good advantage of being led by someone who strongly is a strong philosopher, legal philosopher.
Yes, ma'am. I think Deepak saying it answers this question.
Great.
So, I think we'll just call Karthik once again if he has any questions.
Sure.
Karthik, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
He can type also if he likes.
Yeah, you can type also. Anything is fine. So ma'am, till we get his question, so the question that I was really excited to ask was, ma'am, so when you're writing, so you come across, you have to draft, you change your drafts a lot of times. So like there are different drafts. It's not like one time you write and you get a perfect draft. So like during that process, like when you're making so many drafts, you're writing so many drafts. So what keeps you motivated to stick to one topic for such a long time? Because because I personally feel writing about the same topic so many times, editing it makes it so boring at a point that you feel like giving up. But then how does it make you so motivated to complete that draft and finish it fully?
True. I mean, that's something all of us face. In fact, I think the more you work and the more you read, I think the more you start editing your work a lot, right? So the one tip someone gave me on this, and which I think works for me, is to basically write your first draft without going back to it. I know that's difficult, but the idea is to stop self-editing so much that go back and back and back and keep trying to change your draft again and again. Instead of doing that, just finish your first draft. And the second thing, and this really helps, and I know that you are a very close-knit group of students, so I think this you could try for yourself, for your question. When you start getting really jaded with a topic or very bored or distracted with the topic, what you could do if you feel confident enough of your draft is to create a small writing group, just friends or people you think could be good peer feedback reviewers. Create a small writing group and ask them to review your draft instead of you looking at the draft again, right? And so basically what happens is you get someone's completely different perspective, someone who doesn't know what you're talking about or what you're writing about, their perspective, their edits, which might be actually way more useful than your own edits because you're reading the same thing, right? There's a little block. So you can rotate. You don't have to always send your draft to somebody, right? You can give it to different friends. You can send it to, I don't know, some professor who's willing to look at your draft later on. I know I'm asking a lot on the teachers, but so that's why I'm saying peer review is probably the strongest review method or the strongest editing method I can suggest.
And yes, ma'am, sorry. So ma'am, do you suggest that when we are writing a draft, like if you edited the draft twice and then we have that mental block that we can't edit and we're getting bored of the same topic, so like, would you suggest us to take a break from that paper, like take a break for like around 2-3 days and then come back so that...
Absolutely. That's another method and that really works. In fact, you get better perspective because you're looking at it with fresh eyes, right? You're looking at it after you've written it. So that is one other method that you can definitely use. See, the only issue with that is if you don't have enough time. Yes. When you don't have enough time and your deadlines are approaching and you haven't scheduled your writing through the semester, that's when you don't have time to wait for 2 days. But if you do, and that's ideal, is to give it a break. And you can always mix and match. Use the method I suggested, use the break method that you are suggesting, work with it. But that's something new always turns up, when you do research, and that kind of keeps you going. Like this one question or this one document I found, which is so new and it gives me a different perspective. That kind of also keeps me motivated to keep writing. But I can tell you that it's never enough. I mean, I'm not happy with the amount of I'm writing, and I hope that everyone writes more.
Ma'am, also that you were talking about those 500 words. So ma'am, yes. That you were talking about excluding the assignments or like, so because I'm so sure.
I know, but it depends on the kind of your assignments. Are all your assignments writing assignments?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then why don't you adopt it in your writing assignments itself? You can have 500 words in your writing assignments, right? It doesn't matter what you write, by the way. I wasn't talking about what you write. As long as you put in 500 words on paper or on your laptop.
Okay.
Start with small goals and keep each other motivated by using Instagram, Facebook. I don't know, whatever methods you use. Use social media to your advantage.
Yes, ma'am.
I think Karthik has a question, right? Shall we take that?
Yes, so he's asking, while doing the research, I find myself at a dead end for the topic. So how do I find a topic that has the content or a suitable topic?
Very tough question, Karthik. I'll tell you, because this can happen to anybody. This can happen to any researcher around the world. And the strange thing is nobody talks about it. So you always assume that people know what they're researching on, or people know what the end result is going to be, or that people don't reach dead end in their research. In fact, I know a lot of PhD scholars who've devoted 3-4 years to their research, and they find that a lot of that topic is outdated. Right? Imagine that. So this can happen to everybody, but the only way to kind of if you do think you reach a dead end, you could do one of two things, which is one, because that's your opinion that you've reached a dead end, right? Speak to a colleague, speak to a classmate, and see if there are other perspectives. Speak to someone in your family even, right? Depends on who kind of motivates you to find another way of. So there's always so much scope in a research topic to be able to mold your topic, right? So your questions may be not interesting anymore, but that doesn't mean you can't have new research questions. That doesn't mean your hypotheses can't change at any time, right? So one suggestion is to speak to someone and see whether you've actually reached a dead end, or you have become tired with your topic and so you think it's a dead end, right? And that's the only way. Or, okay, finding topics. Again, I can't emphasize enough um, the idea that you shouldn't close your mind to certain interests. All through the first 3 years of my law school, I thought that I only wanted to do corporate law. That's it. And I didn't want to do anything else. I wanted to be a corporate lawyer, and that's all. So all I did was read corporate law and just kind of, get used to concepts, etc. But turns out I'm not doing corporate law anymore. I'm very happy for it that I'm not doing that. So don't close your mind to a topic. I know that some people are naturally interested in certain topics and they pursue it for all their lives, but that doesn't happen to all of us, right? So read wide. Sometimes a newspaper article can trigger your research interest, and you can find a suitable topic, answering Karthik's question. Sometimes a discussion with someone can give you a suitable topic. Uh, the thing to do, though, the moment you find a topic which you think is interesting, and so you don't reach a dead end or you don't reach an end, is basically to check literature. Just check the literature available around it. That's the only way you find a suitable topic, because suitable is a very difficult term to define, right? For each person, it's different. But only reading more and more about that topic, and not just reading from a journal, but reading far and wide or talking to people, might help you, stop getting a dead end. That's one way that I have used. I don't know if that helps you, Karthik.
I think it was very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, but hopefully, because again, it's individual style of reading and writing. But
Yes.
these are things that have worked for me, so I'm just trying to share it with you. Thanks. Yeah.
So ma'am, actually we're running out of time. So I think I'll call Urmi ma'am. Urmi ma'am, yes.
Urmi is here.
Hi, Varsha.
Good morning.
Hi, Urmi.
What an amazing discussion. What an amazing
Thank you.
discussion.
That was very, very interesting as well for me. It kind of.
Yes, of course. And your, the ideas on reading and writing, it has not been just helpful for the students, but also the young faculty members that we have. It's always a challenge, to find new research ideas to publish. This is always a pressure.
I'm in the same boat. I mean, writing and reading is difficult for all people. Like, it doesn't matter where.
Exactly. We are all going through that same pressure. And there is always this pressure, right, of publishing, right? You have to, as a researcher, you need to publish your work.
Correct.
So that's amazing. What a fascinating discussion. Thank you for spending your valuable time with us.
Thank you. Thanks, Urmi.
It was very inspiring. And I'm sure our students have learned a lot today. And I hope they incorporate that.
I hope I incorporate that as well. So I just wanted to say that if anyone wants to get in touch with me, any of your students at any time, not just about reading, writing, just, I don't know, professional advice, because I've done too many various kind of things in life. So if they want to talk to me about work or about reading and writing, I'm happy to get an email from them. Urmi has my email details. I think Harman also has my email details. So please feel free to get in touch with me later on.
Great, great,
Thank you.
great. That's very reassuring for all of us that we can get in touch with you, and I hope that we
Thank
can
you.
all be in touch with you in the coming days, in the coming years.
I hope so
Um,
too. It'll be good to
yeah,
speak to
thank you so much, Varsha, and thank you, Herman, for engaging with Ms. Varsha in such a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you all for your
you.
participation. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.